Hey friends, today it seems we're living in a storm of fear. Do you feel it? I know I do. It seems that there are these little factions that create fiefdoms of fear, fearful of liberals, or those who are fearful of conservatives, or fearful of governmental control, fearful of climate change, or fearful of all manner of conspiracy theories. Fear laces the headlines of news articles and goes across television and runs through social media threads. Fear, fear, fear. But in the storms of life, in this storm of fear that you and I are facing, the question that you and I need to ask ourselves is this: on what foundation are we building our life today? Because the right foundation will remove our fears in a storm of fear. Yes, the right foundation will remove our fears, even in a storm of fear. Behind me is this huge hunk of granite that has just sat here for literally thousands of years, unmoved, unchanged. King David wrote these words in a praise song of deliverance. He said this: "My Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my rock, in whom I take refuge." So as you look at this giant hunk of granite behind me, listen to these words that King David wrote later on in Psalm 62. He said this: "My soul waits in silence for God only. From him is my salvation. He only is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I shall not be greatly shaken." That God only, nothing else was going to be his foundation. God alone would be his foundation. And the trap that you and I find ourselves in is looking to something else or someone else to be our foundation. Maybe it's our bank account or our investment portfolio or success climbing the corporate ladder or a new house, or perhaps it's just moving out of country. Oh, then we'll be safe. No. God alone, only God, can be the foundation that removes our fears. So what foundation are you building your life on today? I ask again. I ask that to myself. Jesus told this parable recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 27 and following. And he said this: "The one who listens to my words," that is to follow his teaching, to follow the truth that Jesus Christ declared in the Sermon on the Mount, that one can be likened to a wise man who built his house on a rock. And when the rain fell and the storms slammed against that house, when the wind blew, that house stood firm because, quote unquote, it was founded on the rock. But the one who was unwise built his house on the sand, and the winds blew, the rain fell, the storm slammed against that house, and when it did so, the house fell flat, collapsed." So listen carefully. The strength of a structure can only be known when it goes through a storm. And that will be determined by what foundation that structure was rested on, was grounded on. And so in our lives, in this storm of fear that's barraging us in our culture, what foundation are we building our life on today? David says again in Psalm 62 how in that moment trusting in the Lord is essential for walking without fear. He said this: "On God my salvation and my glory rest, the rock of my strength, my refuge is in God." Now listen, he says, trust in him at all times, O people. In that moment, at that time, when your mind gets filled with fear, at that moment, trust in God, O people. Pour your heart out to him, before him. God is a refuge for us, he says. God is a refuge. So we can roll all the anxieties of our hearts into his hands, because we know he's the rock, unchanging in the storms of life. So like that hymn writer of old said, "When darkness veils his lovely face, I rest on his unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand." Yes, all other ground is sinking sand. So what are we building our lives on today? What is the foundation of our lives? Christ or something or someone else? O people, trust in the Lord. He is our rock. He is our fortress. He is our deliverer. In the Lord God, our rock, we find refuge. Trust in Him today. Storms are inevitable. Everybody will face storms, and the storm of fear sweeping across our culture is just one of many. But in all of those storms, trust in the Lord, who is the rock unchanging in the storms of